Do you want a marketing strategy that's customized for your business? Two Trees PPC can help. With an experienced web design team and a focus on online growth for small to medium-sized businesses, they work to find the quickest possible path to return on investment. With over $5 million in Google Search Ad budget management, they know how to use digital marketing to take your company to the next level. Visit twotreesppc.com. Welcome to MarketPlay, the marketing podcast where we play games instead of just talk, all about this week's marketing and advertising news. I'm your host, Meryl Hathaway, and we're brought to you by Two Trees PPC out of Sacramento, California. Now let's get to quizzing you and our guest on everything industry. Good luck, and welcome to MarketPlay. Hello, good morning. I'm Meryl Hathaway, and joining me is Mike Wisby of Two Trees PPC. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, good. How you doing? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I am pretty good, and I'm very excited for our guests. So today we have Chris Post. Chris is passionate about taking businesses from good to great and is now the president of 2M Locating LLC, specializing in providing underground utility locators and digital mapping for the building and construction industry. He and his best friend, Matt Morrow, and co-founder, work with architects, civil engineers, contractors, excavators, federal and local government officials, industrial and manufacturing companies, private property owners, utility and water districts, and universities, all out of their hometown of Sacramento, California. 2M provides only the newest and best equipment, unmatched quality, respect, and an experienced team for each and every job, with one goal in mind: preventing damage and accidents on job sites by accurately locating, mapping, and documenting underground utilities. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Chris to the show. How you doing?
I'm excellent. It's Friday and I'm a fan of the show, so I'm excited to be on myself. Thank you.
We're so pumped to have you, and congrats on your new business.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting to be back in the saddle, as they say. So I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Definitely. All right, well, let's jump right into our first game called Getting to Know You.
Okay.
I will ask you a series of this or that questions, and you'll just answer them with your first instinct response. Don't think too much. You ready?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Number one, tablet or laptop?
I'm device agnostic. If it can connect to the internet, I can work.
Okay. Interesting. You're a rare species. Number two, Sacramento or Fresno?
Sacramento. Matt did the Fresno thing, so I'm actually a fourth generation Sacramento resident. Believe it or not.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah. My great grandparents liked the place, and everyone else did too. So here we are.
Mr. Sacramento there.
Yeah. Wow. Born and bred.
I'm sure you talk to a lot of people from Sacramento. They take off for college, university, or some venture, and then it seems like the city always kind of brings you back. It's I mean, it's a small city, but big, and it's just a great place to raise a family, and the people and everything here, and an awesome business community too. So I'm happy to be back.
I think Sacramento reminds me a lot of Cincinnati. I went to school in Ohio, and there are a ton of people who travel, and do all kinds of cool things. And if they're from Cincinnati, they all end up back in Cincinnati. It's
Sounds very similar.
Interesting. Yeah, it's very similar in that way. All right, Instagram or TikTok?
I've never even been on TikTok, so Instagram.
Perfect. Well, no problem, because it looks like it's going away this week.
Yeah, that's what I was
thinking. Hopefully nobody else is too upset. I know they are, so we'll just skip right past that. Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix if I can find something to watch. YouTube if I need to learn something.
Good one. And it's so funny how many people use YouTube as an education tool rather than entertainment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Podcast or public radio?
Podcast all the way.
Yeah. iPhone or Android?
I'm iPhone to the core.
Oh, all right, cool. So we're specific about that. I like it. Yeah. And lastly, although these might not apply to you, 9 to 5 or 10 to 6?
6 to 6.
Yep. Yeah. I knew it was a 12-hour and I didn't know when it started.
Wake up, grind, keep going until wife says, all right, put it away. It's family time. So there's always, when you run a business, as you guys know, there's always something else you can do or improve or that. So
you have to actually draw a line in the day to say, all right, I'm not going to do anything more.
Now. Yeah.
You do, but I love it. So
good. That's a good night's sleep too after 6 to 6. I imagine you have a very sound sleep. Amazing. All right, awesome. So let's jump right into humble beginnings. I'm very excited
okay.
about this one for you. Please tell us about your very humble beginnings. What was your first job ever?
So my first, I guess, job ever, my dad had a business growing up. So ever since I was a little kid, I just shadowed him and was doing everything from filing paperwork to answering phones to driving forklifts and just wherever they needed me. Which was awesome growing up and
I
learning
was
about
gonna
business.
say.
Yeah, I'm actually very blessed. My father, his father, and his father were all entrepreneurs, and then my mom's father was also a business owner as well. So I got to grow up with lots of different entrepreneurism and knowing like if you didn't treat your customers right and run your business right, your family's not going to eat. So that was instilled to me at a young age. My first official job, I would say, like arm's length, not family, was I was a busboy at a steakhouse. And I think every person should work in food service, especially at a young age. It's really where you, I think, hone customer service. People are coming in for not just a bite to eat, but for an experience. And it's on you and the rest of your team to provide that experience as well as the good meal, etc. So whether that's keeping their glasses full or helping the waiter so that they're not as loaded up so they can provide better service. I feel I really, between growing up in a business and then getting into the food service, like that's where I really honed my, I guess, like focusing in on the customer and their experience as the primary objective of any business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that, by the way. I've said that for years and I was told that for a long time. And then I've worked in so many restaurants and bars, and I think that I learned so much beyond just business kind of thing
Absolutely.
or even just about customer service. It was so also about you learn what it's like to literally serve other people and what that
Sure.
feels like, what that entails. And then I've taken that into, I think, almost any other experience I've
Absolutely.
had because I have more compassion, I have more empathy, I have more respect. I understand how hard those jobs are. So
Totally.
when you're even going through like a fast food drive-through window, those people are working exceptionally hard.
Right.
And you know that from doing busing or from serving or bartending.
Totally. And you also learn the team dynamics. If
Yeah.
the cook isn't doing this, then that's going to backlog this in the dish. So it's everyone jointly working together in this system, playing their role to
Yeah.
make sure the customer has a great experience.
And
So
each one
yeah,
is equally important, really, when it comes down
absolutely.
to it.
It's good to have that viewpoint as well, to see it from like take a step back and look at the whole organization as a whole.
Exactly.
That's something that usually, CEOs and C-suite people have that. That's why they got there. But it starts from the first job. That's why we do the humble beginnings thing. I think it's really important to see how it starts from your very first job all the way through.
Yeah, in the end, you're serving people, right, and making them happy
people
and providing value, and then they pay you for it. So it's simple, but it needs to be done with the priority focused on the customer, not your pocket first.
Exactly. Without them, we're nothing.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Like the client, the customer always has to come first. That's why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what led you, because we know that you've done all kinds of different work in different industries. So I'm fascinated to know, and don't feel like you have to shorten anything.
Okay.
How is it that you jumped from where you were then into these different industries to finding yourself now today doing the business that you're doing?
The life and times of Chris Post, let me tell you. Yeah, so I went off to Chico State for college. Had a lot of fun there. Obviously, came back, and it was the housing boom and real estate boom in the early 2000s. My father was in commercial real estate at that time. I joined him as a junior broker. So about 5-6 years, I sold and leased industrial properties, and that was another very instrumental career path early in my life because I saw big deals being made with big REITs and public traded companies and the rest of it, and I saw the efficiencies and how they operated and learned about contracts and legal and insurance and offers and negotiations, and it on a bigger level, like on millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of square feet. And again, that was because I joined as a junior broker to an existing team. So I was fortunate to jump right into, I guess, more of a higher echelon of deal making. And then what happened was, well, the market collapsed. My wife was like, "Hey," and I was commission only. And my wife was like, "Remember when we used to have food in the refrigerator and you used to bring home commission checks? You know, it's time to kind of rethink this a little bit." So that was actually a really difficult period for me because I was working with my father, who supported my mother and my sisters, and I did a lot for him. And me leaving that, I felt kind of abandoned my family, if that made sense, because he relied on my help. So it was a really difficult period in coming to grips with being young and realizing your first career is over. And so being in Sacramento, when construction and real estate die, the only thing pretty much left is state government. And so my wife worked for CalPERS, and she's like, "Go get a job," you know. And so I did the thing. I ended up getting a job at the Treasury, the state treasurer's office. I was the training officer, and right after I got hired, so I gave new employee orientations and all that kind of stuff. Right after I hired, the governor, I think it was Governor Brown at the time, instituted the hiring freeze because that was like furloughs, and it was like all during that time. And so here I am, the new employee orientation person with no new employees. Um, but and I'm glad I ended up working in a bureaucracy because it showed me how much I'm not a pencil pusher or like order taker. Um, Basically they're like, "We can't do anything. We're going to keep you. We're not going to eliminate you." I'm like wondering, do you even need my position anymore? Like, why are we
Yeah.
wasting the money on my salary? Not that I don't want a job, but I'm just
Right. Like, sorry to point
Yeah.
this out, but
what am I supposed to be doing right now, right? And so they started giving me just kind of random things to do, but it was a state job, right? And so right at that year, the iPad was released, and iBooks was released, and I got a hold of the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and I had nothing really to do. I'd get everything done for the week by Monday. So I just sat in my cubicle and I read. And I randomly had a friend from college call me and say, "Hey, you were the geek in all of our marketing classes that did the PowerPoints and stuff. I got a friend that needs a website. Can you help that?" And I'm like, "I don't know how to code a website, but I just read about outsourcing from Tim Ferriss's book." So I went on well, it was Odesk at the time. Now it's Upwork. Hired someone, and
yeah.
it was actually someone down in your neck of the woods. It was a friend down in Los Angeles, and she had this community project she was doing where her and her husband had installed artificial grass, and the city was saying that they had to tear it up. And so she started a campaign to change the. So, anyways, I made this website called Grass No Roots,
Oh, I
and
love
and
it.
she was in it. And I don't know if my website did anything, but her and all her people were able to change all that, and so they're able to, you know, use the more drought tolerant like stuff like that. And
Right.
then I bumped into another friend up here, and he had started a business, and I was like, "Hey, you got this really basic website, you know, I'm trying to do this now." Like, and he gave me a shot, then someone else did, and it was growing and growing to the point where I was making more gross, not net, after taxes and everything, than my state job. And I told my wife, I was like, "I can't do this anymore. I have to sit in this cubicle. My boss can look down, and even though I got everything done, like until the clock struck 5, he's got that laser dart looking. I can't leave my cubicle. I just feel like I'm in prison." She's like, "I get that.
Mhm.
You know,
I
you
never
got
understood that, by the way. Does
no, I didn't
anyone
get it
think that
either."
helps anything? And if you already did what you're supposed to do, isn't that a like, damn, my employee is efficient AF. I don't need to do anything beyond this. Like, what a great guy. Like, let you do what you need.
Thank you.
Right.
Well, not to divert from the story here, but just a quick example was my first week. My boss's boss asked me to pull up a document, and I'm new to the state. There's all these acronyms and 3 letters, this, and I don't know what the heck they're talking about. So I was like, "Oh, this must be the document you're looking for, right?" And he goes, "No, it's not that. It's like, here's it is," and blah, blah, blah. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I go back to my cubicle and I type in into Google what it was. I'm like, "Oh, you meant this." I went and grabbed it and I walk right back and I go, "You meant this one, right?" And he goes, "Who gave this to you?" I go, "Excuse me?" He goes, "How did you get this?" I was like, "Well, you told me what it was. So I just went back and Googled to clarify. And like, this is what you need, right?" And he goes, "I was expecting this in 2 weeks." And I like my
Like,
floor
how
hit, or my
dumb do
jaw
you
hit the
think
floor. Like,
I am?
what? Like,
That's the
and
state, though.
just like, you're not in Kansas anymore,
Yeah.
Toto, right? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I needed to get out of there. I was completely miserable. Another one, the first day I was there, before we had the commercial real estate office, we had CNBC playing in different rooms, people talking about the market, new development, all this exciting stuff. And I remember I came back from my first lunch and I saw one of my new coworkers. I was like, "Hey, did you catch what the market closed at today?" And they go, "What's that?" I go, "The stock market or Dow Jones or anything. Did you see what it closed at?" And he goes, "Why would I care about that?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." This is not my environment. So rolled the dice and yeah, I started Postmodern Marketing, and which is a play on my last name. And we started growing. I had been in commercial real estate before. I had worked with a lot of contractors and developers and those people for their properties. So I just started calling on all of them, and I actually focused on Yelp at first. I figured that most of the decision makers wouldn't be the ones actually searching for website companies. They would have their assistant or someone that would probably be a younger person. And at that time, Yelp was the big thing. So, I was working with yoga teachers and all these, like, just kind of like beginning startup kind of stuff. But I made sure on all of those to get, assuming I did a good job for them, that they would leave me a review. And that got me onto the short list of more things. And then it was more of a sales perspective, which I believe I was very fortunate of coming from a sales background, again, from a little bit higher of a level versus a lot of the people in the marketing industry. I feel they're the technician as well as the business owner. So they're the graphic designer, they're the developer, and not to generalize too much, but a lot of times they're not the most business people, right? They don't return your call right away or this and that.
Mhm.
And there's just kind of a lack of, like, the customer doesn't know what's going on. That's the worst feeling in the world. And
Yeah.
so I just was very proactive. The other thing was I didn't understand. I had never worked in marketing before. And even though I majored in it, I understood it. But I didn't understand the pricing. I'm like,
Mhm.
hang on a second here. You're going to charge, okay, it takes 3 hours to code this jQuery widget and this and that. Like, I don't know what that, like, what that means, or if that takes
Yeah.
that long. And, and then it's a perverse incentive if you think about it. So I send you the draft. You don't like it and make changes because it's not good or what you wanted from our needs analysis. So you send it back to me. I charge you more hours to fix it. And we keep going back. So I make more money the worse I do. Like, if you think about it, it's
Yeah.
kind of weird.
It's bizarre.
And again,
Mhm.
nobody knows these. And who sits down at their computer for an hour and doesn't look at their phone? Or, like, how are you billing someone for an hour? No one's actually doing that. And so I thought about it like a car. I don't know how long it takes to fabricate the muffler, but I know that, hey, X dollars, that sounds like a good price to me. That's a good value. And so I took that approach. It's 5 grand, it's 10 grand for a website. And sir, ma'am, it's not going to go over this. And it's on me to make a profit by delivering this, more efficiently, etc. But I promise you, this is the value that we both agree it's worth. And it will never be another unless you make significant scope of work changes, etc. And I think that really allowed us to grow and scale, because a lot of the, especially construction industry, used to bidding and all that. They just look at it and it's like, okay, that's that X and it's part of the deal. And I feel that got us a lot further because I was able to talk in English to people instead of giving them this
Mhm.
spreadsheet of design hours, program hours, QA hours, and it's this and, like, what, like 7 hours for this? How do we know that's accurate? Who's auditing? So did that and grew the company. Ended up one of our competitors. It seemed like a great idea to merge our operations together. In the end, it wasn't. But also in that time, I suffered some kind of personal setbacks. I had my father-in-law was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at 61. Kind of threw us for a loop. Healthy guy, everything. And then one of my best friends growing up, 37, had an early death unexpectedly from a blood clot. And then they got my father-in-law's cancer out, but then we got the bad news that it came back. And it was just this 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
things weren't going great at work. And, like, my personal life was bleeding into it. And I'll be honest, I probably wasn't the best partner to work with at that time because I was just completely sidetracked. Meanwhile,
Sure.
we're making a bunch of money and things are going good. And so I wasn't really focused on the business too much as I should have been. And then it just came to the point where it's like, it makes sense to leave. And we negotiated the buyout. and which is a very interesting experience selling your business. The more interesting thing, I think, and recently someone wrote a book, but the period after you sell your business,
Ooh, yeah.
it's your whole identity, right? Like you live and
Mhm.
breathe. This is like your child. And then all of a sudden it's, honey, can you run and pick up the dry cleaning and this? And, it's like, I don't have anything to do. I'm done.
Mhm.
And it was this, I was in charge of all these people and this, and I'll admit there was a bunch of ego in it involved too, which I've, great book, by the way, Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. So I got a lot of time. I took 3 years off basically, and we traveled the world. And my daughter's 5 now. She's been to 15 countries, and we lived at a month at a time in all these different places, chasing summer. So we didn't have winter for 3 years, and
Nice.
then it was great. I was doing some
That
consulting.
sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
no. Well, it was one of those things that two very close, healthy people in my
Yeah,
life died early, and they all
Mhm.
wanted to do this and that, but they delayed it because of their careers and that. And it's like,
right.
you know what? My legs work. There's money in my pocket. I have the desire to travel. My daughter doesn't need any tuition or bail money, or who knows what the future is going to hold, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
we
If
want to do
not
it.
now, when? Yeah.
Exactly, because you're going to be dead. My CPA actually started getting mad at me after I sold the company. He's like, "What are you going to do?" I'm like, "Absolutely nothing. I'm going to rewatch Seinfeld from start to finish, and I'm going to read all the books on my to-read list, and I'm going to go travel and relax. These are your prime earning years, and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I could be dead." And like, then all I did was
It's so
work.
true.
Like,
And you did. You earned so much. You did so well. Like, you turned
thank you.
something so small into something so profitable, and if you're able, I mean, I just think that that seems like the end all be all in life, right? Is to have experiences that you really wanna have. So,
Right.
if you were able to do, I mean, I'm in awe of the fact that you were able to do that.
Thank you.
I'm also envious, I'm not gonna lie about it, especially right now when I picture traveling around the world and, like, having
That would be
coffee in
nice right
Italy.
now.
I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ah."
Well, it's
And then
bittersweet. I
yeah,
give it all back to have my father-in-law and my friend back. No
of
questions
course.
asked. But I didn't want their passings and to go in vain. And then, it's just one of those things. You grow up and you talk to your uncles and aunts and everyone. It's like, oh, when I was your age, I wish I did all this. And it was just one of those things where it's like, maybe it's time to listen to them.
Yeah.
And so we did it. And then I got a little bored. I'll be honest with you. So you get all this stuff, and then it's like
Yeah.
you're used to being productive and doing all these things. And so I actually met another entrepreneur, this really amazing guy, Craig Hewitt, who runs Podcast Motor. And we talked, and he's like, I don't care if you're traveling, like, as long as you're cool with the hours, you can run our business development program. So I started working with a bunch of major brands and people, helping them get started in podcasting and all that. And then we were in Taiwan, which is an amazing country. If no one's ever been there, I'd highly, highly recommend it. And the virus was starting to get pretty crazy.
Mhm.
And we have our daughter, and she's the firstborn, and we're both the firstborns. And so both of our, the grandparents are like, "You need to get back here." In
Yeah.
retrospect, we probably would have been safer staying there. But
Mm.
so,
Mhm.
anyways, we come back to Sacramento, and so when I sold the business, we ended up selling the house, cars, everything. Like, we cashed out.
Oh,
So we
wow.
were literally vagabonds, however you pronounce it, for 3 years. And we had some furniture and stuff in storage, but we lived off our 60-liter backpacks,
Wow.
and so we've been bouncing between our parents not knowing what's going on. In the meantime, my friend from high school, Matt Morrow, who we had been trying to do a couple things over the years. We almost bought a vacation rental in Hawaii, which I'm thankful that didn't work out, because we wouldn't even be able
That
to
would have
travel
been
to it
bad
right
timing.
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
completely upside down.
Yeah.
But he's like, "Hey, I heard you're back." He took over his father's land surveying company, Morrow Surveying, here in West Sacramento. It's been around for 37 years. And he's like, we've been subcontracting this utility locating work out for just a number of years at some pretty high dollar amounts. And I think this is a viable business. So here's the deal. I've already bought the equipment. I've already formulated the LLC. You come in, we agree to a partnership. And basically, it's like my dream. He's like, here's the foul lines. Here's some startup capital. Here's some equipment. Build our business. And that's where we're at right now. And so I've been doing that since about June. And I knew nothing about utility locating before all this, but I find it absolutely fascinating because Well, one, the mission of it is really important because it's technically we're in the damage prevention industry.
Right.
If you've ever seen call 811 before you dig or any of that stuff.
Hmm.
So what we do is 811 is a public service that they'll come out and mark things from like the public mains and streets to a private property. Once it enters private property, then you need a private locating company like us. And if you think about it, like before any construction project is, you want to make sure, one, if you hit a gas line, you're going to blow up, and that's definitely not a good thing, right? But even not as major as that, if you hit a water line or something, the project has to stop, fix has to come in, delay, it's construction's done in all these kind of dependencies where this person needs to finish their job, then that person can start. So throws off the whole, logistics of the
Yeah.
job, etc. So what we do is prevent all of that. And then the other thing is we're into digital mapping. So we can take our locating results and then through, whether that's through sketching it with CAD over a Google Earth aerial, or we can fly a drone up and actually tie that into a survey control point so that whatever we're droning, taking pictures of or imaging is actually GPS, like, so they can see exactly where things are. And it's down to like 6-inch accuracy, which for the engineers and all those people is extremely important to be able to see that. But mostly, to be honest with you, it's the best thing about this industry is coming in blind, because it's just, construction's just one of those old boys network, for lack of a better phrase. It's multi-generational. Like Matt took over for his dad, and Tom took over from his dad, and our generation is coming up now, and they want Instagram advertising, and they want things done how they do. But more importantly, everything in this industry is just, well, it's always been that way. And so some of the things like we're doing as far as innovating is,
Yeah.
so again, traditionally a company would come out and they would use, if you've ever seen the locators with the wand things that they're pointing out, that's called electromagnetic technology. And then there's another one called GPR, which is ground penetrating radar, which is like this lawnmower thing that shoots radar down to find buried pipes, etc. And typically what would happen is they would take the results of that. So they spray paint it, right? Like you've seen on the street, all the like
Yeah.
orange is this, water is blue, and all the rest of it. And then they would take those lines and put it over a Google Earth aerial. And so we're doing this job for the first, it's actually our first job, real job. And I'm showing the client, I'm like, yeah, and when we're done with this, I'm going to present you something like this. And I showed him, he's like, well, that's cool, but that's like a 2-year-old picture. Like there's a burned car right there. That's not here right now. And this building was demolished. And so that's great, but I'm not going to be the one doing this. I'm going to have my excavator guy on the backhoe come tomorrow, and he's never been to this site. So now he's going to look at this picture and be like, okay, that's good, but this isn't relevant to what I'm actually looking at. And so
Yeah.
I asked him, because one of our competitor charges like literally an arm, maybe 2 arms and a leg. Like it's just ridiculous for this, and it's not even half of the time not accurate. And I said, hang on a second, I got my drone in the car. What if I just flew the drone about 50 feet up and took a like live picture of our freshly marked findings? And it's today. And if the guy's here tomorrow, it's not going to. There's no buildings are going to disappear. He goes, oh my god, that would be so valuable. So we did that, and we got like all these kudos for that. And so now we've added that as an actual service offering in there, because it's actually relevant,
Hmm.
and we don't charge extra; it's included. And it's really interesting coming into this industry. And there's one specific national company that's been on the major acquisition over the last 20 years, and that's how they've expanded nationally. But in my opinion, they're kind of the lazy, entrenched, like they took a bunch of private equity money and they own kind of a majority of the market. So again, they're lacking on the customer service, in my opinion. They're overcharging, and they're just because they can. There's not really an alternative out there, right? Well, now there is. And so
I
that's
like
what,
that. I like that how that applies to so many other industries as well. You see that. You
sure,
see the big players in marketing, owning a
absolutely.
marketing company. You see it as well. You come in and you just do things. You change your product to suit what the customer's asking for. That's all
Well,
you're
it just goes
doing.
back to what we started in
Yeah.
talking about as far as the restaurant industry. It's about the customer. Like,
Yeah.
has anyone bothered to ask the customer if they actually want this?
Exactly. It's
Like,
literally
no,
listening
it's
and
always
then
just been done this way. It's just crazy. So
yeah.
that's, again, coming in here fresh, not knowing all this stuff. I'm just asking, well, what if we did this? Would you pay for me if I did this or that? Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a new way of doing that.
Do you want a marketing strategy that's customized for your business? Two Trees PPC can help. With an experienced web design team and a focus on online growth for small to medium-sized businesses, they work to find the quickest possible path to return on investment. With over $5 million in Google Search Ad budget management, they know how to use digital marketing to take your company to the next level. Visit twotreesppc.com.
And so, and like we're using Google Earth and all these other things where people can see our things and interact with them and like make it, they can like walk down the street and see where the lines are, which is helpful for like bigger projects. And the cool thing we're getting into right now is kind of random, but he's actually upstairs right now. We flew a guy in from Virginia, and we're looking at acquiring his mapping company and starting to get into augmented reality and virtual reality, where I don't know if you saw in the news, Facebook is going to, like with Ray-Ban's parent company, they're going to be making VR glasses. Obviously, Google Glass existed before. We're hearing rumors of the eyeglasses. Well, that's all the consumer grade stuff. On construction sites, they got some other ones, and Microsoft's doing some stuff. But VR is coming our way. And if you think from a damage prevention perspective, if I can have some glasses on while I'm on a backhoe and I'm looking around and I have this mixed reality environment where I can see in VR or like an augmented reality, the utility line, I know I don't dig there, right? I don't want to keep referencing a map or anything. The data is integrated into my senses, if that makes sense. And that's just going to be more and more safe and safe and safe, because pretty soon everyone will be on the job site having this. It'll be standard kind of PPE, and you're going to be able to pull up job plans, etc., see our markings, and now those job sites are going to come alive. We're still a couple of years off from that, but I feel right now there's this huge opportunity in getting positioned for that, and then being the company that educates and takes the people from the previous platform to the next one, right? From snail mail to email, from fax to digital photo or whatever, like the next paradigm shift. Because that's going to be really, really important for, like, we're looking at going after universities and 3D mapping and everything, all because they're constantly adding dorms and labs, and they need to switch out utilities or send more fiber optics this way. So we really, again, want to help these customers. And not to sidetrack, but you'd be absolutely amazed. No one knows where utilities are buried. No one records this.
That's
it's not.
insane.
It's absolutely insane. Actually, some state governments now are starting to require on highway construction that all of that is documented with GPS and professional surveys, because they waste so much money every time. It's always been done that way, right? So we want to come in and standardize and change things so that you can now build off this model. You have this, the later, now I'm getting into like the 6th and 7th inning of the business plan, but there's a technology called digital twins, and it's used in everything from engineering to buildings. But if you can think about, say I have a hospital, right? If we can 3D map this and have the whole thing live virtually, that's the digital twin part, right? Now it's all scaled and measured and everything's correct. Engineers can now engineer digitally, solve any problems that come up, and have the cost, damage, etc. savings before they actually go out to the real world and stick a shovel in the ground. And we weren't expecting to find that. I mean, especially a hospital, you got people's life support, right? So being able for them to have this virtual environment for them to literally walk through, identify issues, and think of like Photoshop with layers. Let's show the utility layer. Let's show the HVAC layer. Let's show the whatever. That's the direction that we're trying to take this company, where it's more than just locating utilities. It's really showing you how that gets into your whole system, and then you're able to engineer and do everything that you need digitally first, safely, and then cost savings of only doing it once, right? Like, what do they say in the medical, like measure twice, cut once kind of a thing, right? So yeah, it's really exciting. We're getting into some crazy technologies that I'm just becoming familiar with, but I'm like a kid in a candy shop. Just got like, it was just when I got into marketing, Mike, like just reading all the blogs and you know, like digesting every single thing you can about SEO and this, and it's kind of taken that same approach of, you know, I got YouTube, I got Twitter, I got podcasts, and I can just learn all I can, mix mash those ideas and turn it into something that's a little bit more forward thinking and profitable. Obviously that needs to be done too, but to make these customers actually have something that is of value. It stays there. They don't have to call us every time they need to do something to go spray paint something. It's oh yeah, you're in layer number 2.
That's wow. Talk about making things efficient and yeah, revamping the industry since you joined it. That's wow. So, okay. So, and coming from a marketing background,
Mhm.
obviously, what are some of the ways right now that you're using all of the knowledge you have within marketing to get word out of what you guys are doing? And the fact that this is obviously very new within a COVID experience has to be a unique challenge. So, what is it that you guys are doing to get your name out there that this is what you guys are up to now?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 4 channels of leads. So we have, as I mentioned, the genesis of this company was Matt's surveying company subcontracting us work. So that's kind of like a steady drip there, which we're very grateful for. And then the good old Google and Bing and the rest of all that kind of advertising. And I was lucky to know what local SEO is, which a lot of my competitors don't. So we've been able to actually, even with a under construction website, we've been able to pull in some pretty significant jobs from the SERPs. And then we just hired a girl Matt and I went to high school with. I was on Instagram and posted Matt and I's business cards, and she's like, "Oh, hey, my husband's actually, COVID's causing him a career change." And so we just brought him on board to do full-time sales. And then we're going to hopefully wrap up negotiations and acquire this mapping company in Virginia and start integrating that. And so networking and LinkedIn and just cold calling. Construction's a very relationship business, right? Everything. And then we have a bidding department. You'll get the Google searches and stuff like that, but it's all you're a sub of a sub, if that makes sense. And so a lot of it's going to be relationships where you're performing really good. So that's what we're doing with again, I'm just using that service like I did when I started Postmodern Marketing instead of Yelp, which, there's not really the equivalent in this industry and no one's really looking at it. It's demonstrating value and providing these new ideas and saying like, here, even if we're the same cost or whatever, look how much faster we can deliver this. Look how much more accurate we can deliver this. The other cool thing that we have is with Matt's surveying business, we have a licensed survey crew at our disposal per se, right? Like that's hard to have. Like most locators aren't doing any mapping, let alone we can get down to, I think, like 3 centimeter accuracy if we need to or whatever for inches. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So doing a fair amount of inbound and outbound. We do want to start expanding so we're going to be opening, the plan right now is in the spring, I'm actually going to be moving down probably to San Diego for a little while to open up a Southern California office. And then part of the plan in acquiring this company in Virginia is they do a lot of training and they have a network of locators across the US. And as you probably aware of, like it's stalled obviously right now, but there will be an infrastructure spending bill coming. And it's just a matter of how many billions or trillions that's going to be. And our goal is to be covering all the major markets within the next 24 to 28 months to be able to get as much of that. Because if you think about it, all of that going towards infrastructure, what's the one thing they have to do? Dig, right? What is the one thing you need to do before you dig? Check for utilities so you don't blow yourself up.
Right.
And we want to be the company that can get as much of that, procure as much of that work as possible across the U.S. So that's what we're working on right now, is the scaling aspect of it all.
That's really
Exciting times.
exciting. Yeah.
It is,
So
yeah.
I just want to touch on the fact you mentioned the word relationship, and obviously you have known your business partner for many, many years now. What is it
Yes.
like working advantage and disadvantage wise with a close friend like that?
So I think it's really great because Matt and I are yin and yang. Like I'm crazy Chris, all visionary, like all over the place, kind of. Anyone who knows me would tell you. And then I kind of whittle it down and focus. Matt is like the calm, collective, soft-spoken, but when he does speak, it's very serious. So we play well off each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But-
feel
but
I have exactly the same with Myra, my business partner. So we're yin and yang. So I totally relate with that.
So that's really good.
So it's
Yeah,
positive, yeah.
but then sometimes I think one of the things, like the challenge in this industry is, for example, when we first started talking, Matt and I, about this, I go, "What are you guys using for project management? Like Asana, Trello?" He's like, "Yellow notepad." Like this
Hmm.
industry is very old school. And so one of the challenges is, not that he's not good with tech or anything like that, but it's just getting people to use the systems and where they just don't see the value. It's like, but I can connect this to Zapier and this and that, and you don't have to do this. But it's always been done this way, right? So that's the challenge, to try and break that mold. But for the most part, it's fantastic. Like we went out to dinner last night, and him and I, and just talked about how fast things are happening and where we want to take this, and to have like the ultimate trust in your partner. So 2M, Matt Morrow, that's what that's, you can tell I'm obviously not the majority owner, or be a different initials, but so it's just a great partnership. I mean, I can't say enough about just what a solid dude he is, and the most ethic. Like we're all in line as far as the same business ethics, customer support, and but then where we differ is, I think, the advantage as far as his experience running operations and crews, et cetera, and my experience as far as procuring leads and business growth and scaling. I think it's a pretty dangerous combination in a good way.
So it's
Hmm.
finding someone who does all the things that you don't naturally do per se, and you guys both can kind of bring what you do to the table, and it meshes
Exactly.
really, really well.
Yeah, and we both knew each other's personalities, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt will always be. It's like baseball. He'll always be like, "Okay, Chris, you're talking sixth inning again. We're still here at the bottom of the first." So he brings me back to earth a lot of times. But then I'm like, at the same time, showing him like, but you got to look at the sixth inning. Look at all this cool stuff coming. Like we got to position
Yeah.
ourselves for this, and this. And this will be in 4 years. This will be in 3 years. But yeah, so we kind of have our plan mapped out, but we're not. What's the old saying? Mike Tyson, like. Everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face, right? So
Yeah.
I thought I'd be running a marketing agency right now, and now I'm not. So it's all about surfing the waves and taking advantage of all the opportunities presented in front of you. And there is so much opportunity right now, that I'm just excited. I mean, I just don't understand anyone complaining about like, oh, there's nothing to do. It's like this COVID thing has reshuffled the decks. The entrenched players, the market leaders, etc. Everything is shuffled, and people are willing to look at alternatives. If you have a new idea, and who's to know what's going to happen? I doubt we're all going to go back to how it normally was. There's going to be some hybrid of that. But I think it's time for entrepreneurs, for businesses to rethink their business models, talk to their customers, see what their current needs are, what they're anticipating their future needs are, and make it more in line with the reality instead of, again, the way things always were, because things aren't the way things always were, and they're not going to
Yep.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think it's time. I mean, it's sad it took a global pandemic for these businesses to wake up and realize that. But I'm really, really excited to be a business owner at this time.
Absolutely.
It's leveled the playing field, I think, and we have an
Absolutely.
opportunity to do things right the way it should have been done before, and listen to customers. It's just I hear that all the time, and I see the success of people who listen to the customers. It's a great time, and keeping it positive. The pandemic's a terrible thing. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have been affected, millions, in fact, impacted, I should say. We just got to get together and make the best of this and come back strong.
Absolutely. Provide value. That's the key to everything.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Chris. So let's jump to a section of the show we call Shout Out. So this is a segment of our show when we shout out to a small business from a member of the Black, Indigenous, or person of color community that is nailing their business niche, who we think that the people should know about. So this week it is Lambda Vodka out of New York City. So started by Charles Hughes and Richard Solomon, a New York-based married couple. They were inspired by Ciroc vodka, and I did not know this, who target the urban community with their spirit of vodka. So the men decided that they wanted to provide the LGBTQ plus community with their own spirit spirit and target them with it, but also be created by members of the community. And therefore, Lambda Vodka was born. The name is known as a symbol of empowerment and hope stemming from the 1970s activism born at Stonewall, speaking directly to their audience with notions of inclusivity, affordability, and acceptance, quickly going from a brand sold in just a handful of stores in New York City to opening up their own Lambda Lounge in Harlem. They are the only brand of vodka to cater directly to all communities. You can follow the guys in their message on Instagram at @drinklambdavodka or at lambdavodka.com. They
Cool.
are...
Everyone loves vodka.
Everyone loves vodka.
Sometimes too much.
And
Yeah.
let's throw it at everyone who wants to be a part of inclusivity and acceptance. And yeah, I'll drink to that. Why not?
Yeah, let's have a shot.
Cheers.
All right,
Friday.
on to our last segment of the show. Yes, happy Friday. We're going to play Branded. So, Chris, these are just a few multiple choice questions about your new industry to throw some fun numbers into the episode. And unfortunately, you already answered at least one of these. So we're just going to go ahead and go through it anyway. I'll start with that one. What is the national call before you dig phone number, which is recommended to call before digging for buried utilities? Is it A, 411, B, 611, or C, 811?
C811, and it's very important to make sure you call before you dig.
You are correct. Oh my God, some of the things I read, I was like, please call this number. Don't be a guy who thinks it's fine to just dig. It's not, it never is. Number 2, we know that construction is a major contributor to the US economy. How many dollars worth of structures are built each year? Is it A, $872 billion, B, $1.3 trillion, or C, $400 trillion?
I'm going to go with B, the lower trillion answer.
You are correct. $1.3 trillion worth of structures are built every year. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
That's expensive. Lastly, every year in the US, there are how many incidents involving hitting underground infrastructures during excavations? Is it A, roughly 1 or 2 incidents every day, B, roughly 1 or 2 incidents every minute, or C, roughly 1 or 2 incidents every hour?
Stuck between minute and hour. Let's do minute.
You were right.
Wow.
Nice.
Yup.
Yeah.
So how needed is this business?
Yeah. I didn't realize how essential you guys are.
Yeah, no, there's too many cowboys with shovels out there going crazy in their yard.
There are a lot of them. Oh my God. Put the shovels away, dudes. Call 811 or you guys.
It's very dangerous. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll mark that and make sure you don't hit anything. So
absolutely. Wow. And with all the technology you're talking about introducing and the accuracy, I mean, that number could like realistically change because of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Think of, again, to get that stimulus, there's going to be so much more construction activity because you have to spend this money for projects. And so that's just looking at those statistics now, scale that up, right? So yeah, it's important for us to get in there to protect people and job sites. Like it's gonna be problems. And so we need to help people so that we don't, hurt people and cause delays and the rest of it, which hurts other people in their pocketbooks. So all around, we're here to prevent damage.
Yay. So Chris, you are so wonderful. Thank you for being here. And just to wrap up, let's tell listeners where it is that they can find you or contact you about your services, or even about asking you about any of your wonderful, glorious past information that we've all learned all about. Where can the people find you?
Sure. Well, our website, like I said, is kind of a work in progress, is 2mlocating.com. We have a LinkedIn page and an Instagram page at 2mlocating that we're starting to get all that going now. And then for me, probably the easiest, just shoot me an email or a call. I'm just Chris at 2mlocating.com, or we're at 916-237-7445.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for doing what you're doing. It's really interesting to learn about. Very
appreciate it.
Stuff. Yep. Yeah. Mike, do you have anything you want to wrap with?
Just thanks, Chris, for coming on. I learned a lot from that, and I had no idea how vital 2M locating is going to be. And I'm just really looking forward to see what you can do. If you can introduce all that technology, oh my God, that's going to be game changer. So
Yeah.
really
Thanks. I'm
excited.
excited. I really appreciate you letting me come on here and be a guest and explaining what we do and why it's so important to everybody.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
appreciate
We're
it.
so happy to have you. Thank you for being here. Stay safe out there and have a
You
wonderful
guys too.
weekend.
Enjoy the blue skies. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to MarketPlay this week. I'm your host, Meryl Hathaway. We're brought to you by Two Trees PPC out of Sacramento, California. Always fighting for the small business. If you liked our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your colleagues. Have a safe week out there, and we'll see you next time.